Evening all, welcome to the Rebirth. Now this is going to be a bit of self-indulgence. I love this game. I have played all of the X's from the very first one, which came out I think on like MS-DOS, all the way through to Terran Conflict, and then Albion Prelude, and now Rebirth. So I have been waiting for this for a long time. Right, the way we're going to do this video series is probably no one's going to watch it, so I guess this is my own, when I'm old and grey sat in that rocking chair, I can show my grandkids that, Uncle Pyrex kicked the shit out of people. But I just, I think sometimes a game comes along that you just have to play, do you know what I mean? And I think this is one of them. And I think what we're going to do, the way we're going to do this video series is going to be playing the campaign to begin with. Then we'll do, I think, two things. One will be a streamed, I'm going to stream a bit more. I'm going to stream the free mode. So, that kind of empire building we'll do as a free mode. But what I'm going to do the YouTube videos for is going to be the playing of the campaign. And there is going to be a lot of nostalgia in this. There's going to be a lot of waffle from myself, and there's going to be a lot of kind of, oh my god, that's what that means. And I think we'll also treat it as a bit of a review. Now, I think a lot of people have already kind of snubbed their nose at this series of games, and we'll discuss that, because I think that's probably a mistake. I think if you've never played X games, X3, X2, X1, Terran Conflict, Albion Prelude, etc., then you're missing out, because I think they're not multiplayer games. Oh my god, a lot of you are now switching off. No, don't switch off. They are solely single player, but they are probably the most immersive single player you'll ever play. And I know a lot of you are kind of like, oh, lol, want to play other players, get the taste of that knife from a human being. Bollocks. You'll get it from this. This is one of these games that I think you'll find that AI is very good. But also, if you want to be a proper empire builder, so for example, if you play EVE Online, and yet you do not have that kind of empire built around you, this is the game to play, because it's not an easy game. It's by far beyond, it is harder than EVE by a long way. And it's also a lot more rewarding, because in essence, you can go many routes. You can become a pirate. You can do, you can become a fleet captain of a, whole fleet of battleships. But also you can become a business, empire builder magnate, where you have, hundreds of freighters at your control. And there is something quite cool about this. So, when I say it's certainly a single player game, it has all of the lovely parts of a multiplayer game with none of the annoying twats. So that has to be a plus. So here we go. Now, this is based upon the premise that Albion Prelude has just happened. If you don't know what happened there, I'm with you, because I actually don't. I played that game and I still probably couldn't tell you. But basically, a supernova has taken out much of the interstellar Stargate network. So in essence, what you've got is this kind of group of people in Albion Prime area who use space lanes. As you can see, that kind of weird thing in front of you there was a space lane. However, this ship that I'm on here is actually one of the original prototypes of the Argon army, or rather, the Albion group. And what's happened is this guy, whoever you are, has captured, or rather, come across it as salvage. And lo and behold, some gorgeous babe who was in a pod has now decided that she wants to be part of this as well. Now, there is a very rich and deep backstory to the X games, and I do mean very deep. You could spend days reading about it, but that's cool. I quite like that. And hopefully, you'll do a bit of investigation of this. But in essence, she's part of the, I think they're called the Albion something. I forget, but they are effectively terrorists, and what they did is they actually bombed the orbital rings of Earth. And maybe let's take a step back. The very first X game begins on a test experimental prototype fighter with an experimental drive, and you're on Earth. And lo and behold, you end up on the other side of the galaxy, all of a sudden, basically in the middle of a huge sprawling, kind of multicultural, a multi-species empire. And it turns out that Earth has been completely isolated for all this time, because the original travelers who left Earth on the big ARC ships effectively set up great empires. AI fleets were formed. AI terraformers went out into deep space, but they then obviously got messed up and they started to kill humans. So again, I'm sure if you don't know, if you're not familiar with any of this, there's a lot of good stuff there. AI, exploring arc fleets, things like that. But we'll cover that. Again, this series of videos is going to go really into depth. So hopefully you're sensing my passion for this game, because I just love it. And I think it's a real change, I think, in terms of the way the X games have usually gone. Because the X games, I think, generally have always been a little bit utility. Whereas this Rebirth is, in essence, really drawing out more of a human interface. So you can see here already there's a human being. You're playing a human pilot with a voice. That's quite cool. You've got crew members. And I actually, one of the things that has completely blown my mind is actually how deep you have to get into managing crews. You actually will get huge starships that you'll be able to walk around. I mean, it is just awesome. So I think, hopefully you're going to come join me on this journey. So let's go through some of maybe the initial kind of I guess points that I picked up from this. The graphics aren't great. They are beautiful, but yet they're also a bit weird. All of the kind of walking around first-person pieces seem to be really kind of almost from System Shock 2, which isn't much of an improvement either from that time. So a little bit kind of disappointed with that, but it's such a minor point. The graphics of the general game though are looking very nice, and I think you've obviously got this cockpit that you're pretty much going to be stuck with for the majority of the game. However, you can actually just get off. You can in later on you'll probably see maybe in video 2 you actually have a freighter, a huge freighter like 10 times the size of this ship, and you land on it and you actually get out of the bay and you're then in the ship's bay. Oh, it's so cool, really cool. But anyway, let's look at how you travel. Now, in the previous X games, you just had stargates that went from one point to the other. So very Eve-like, you approach a stargate and bang, you're then in the next system. Whereas here, this is literally based around a small cluster of planets. So it's actually all very close, and what you're using is hyper kind of substellar space lanes, as you see here. And what you'll then notice is actually that the amazing thing about this is that in most X games you kind of see a lot of people at AI and such, but in this it is crazy. You see hundreds of ships, thousands of ships. Literally in this video you're seeing now, you will see me literally flying past thousands of ships. Now there's a few nice mini games going on here as well. Now again, I think the problem I have is a lot of reviewers will not really review this game with much of a kind of willing suspension of disbelief. I've said that before, but I think a lot of reviewers will look at this game and say, what the fuck is this? And they will be like a 9-digit mini game where you can basically, slipstream ships to go faster. I mean, I think that's pretty cool. Where's that any different to Pipe Mania in Bioshock, for fuck's sake? So it already kind of, I mean, I've read a few reviews of it, and people I think have been deliberately scathing because they probably never played X games, and they probably played this, and the first thing they've thought of is, oh, what, is it just like X-Wing? Oh, is it just like, oh, you fly around in one ship? They haven't really even scratched the surface, and I think this is where I think I'd be very wary of reviews. If you are a fan of the X series and you're kind of deciding whether to buy this, buy it. It is good. I can give you a guarantee it is bloody good. If you've never played the X series before, I would still recommend maybe buying it, because again, it depends the kind of game you're looking for. But if you want a game that's really going to kind of test your brain cells a bit, really going to kind of say, and if you're the kind of person who love to build bases in RTSs, or if you maybe, when you play FPSs, you like to kind of really get the tactical point and drop on people, then this game's probably for you, because it is a thinking man's game, and I think that's probably worth, really understanding. And again, I would stress it's gonna take you time to get used to it. As you'll see, I'm lots of clicking about, not really understanding what the flipping X going on. But that's, again, part of the game. X games are, I mean, if we always joke about Eve having a learning curve so steep that people fall off it, then X has got one even steeper. But I would say the reward is twice as much, 10 times as much, because there'll become a point where you realize you've actually just recruited, a battleship with a captain, an engineer, a defense officer, and then you've got a Marine Sergeant, then you've got like a whole gang of Marines, and then you've got fighter pilots on that battleship, then all of a sudden you're watching that battleship fly into battle and launch Marines in torpedoes at enemy battleships. You're then seeing the fight happen. I mean, that is what awaits you in this game, and I think I would highly recommend you give it a go. I would say probably one of the things to really bear in mind is, again, if you've not played X before, or any of the X games, it is a multi-ship game. The AI is there to kind of take over for you. So it's probably worth bearing that in mind, because I think majority of the money... So, for example, you'll start the game in the previous games, and you'll probably go back and forward selling something, maybe running a few missions, earning a few quid. But then you get to the point where effectively you can pay someone to fly a ship for you and just go and do the trade routes. And then you can buy 2 people, then 2 become 4, then 4 become 8, and etc. And before you know it, you've got 100 freighters with jump drives, all literally jumping around the galaxy, automatically trading for you, making you billions and billions. Now, this game is one of those kind of, again, I think games that when they designed it, they just kept going. And this is literally this labour of love from Ubisoft, because they just kept going with it. And I think this is a game where they said one day they had a huge fleet, many battleships, many things. And then they said, wouldn't it be cool if we could build our own stations? And you can do that. You can go into deep, deep space. You can then spend, a couple of weeks, a couple of days, whatever, building a space station all of your own. And then you can then build factories. You can build and again, because there is a whole economy behind here, you need energy. Energy is the key kind of base unit of this economy. And as part of energy, that then produces food, it produces material, it produces metal, it produces guns, missiles, drones, ammo, you name it. Everything is produced, and you have the ability to build any factory you like and link it all together. So, in one of my playthroughs of X3, and I know this was before I was doing YouTube, I had an entire sector of the map filled with something like 200 factories that were just churning out, equipment, ammo, weapons, drones, and such from all of my fleets. And then I could actually just send 100 battleships to these stations, get them all loaded, and then I could jump all 100 battleships into a fight in the middle of a capital system, and they would just appear. Their jump drives would just kick in, boom, there they go, fight. And I tell you what, it was one of the most exceptional things I've ever seen. The game is technically quite demanding, so I think, if you haven't got a great PC, be cautious. Read up maybe the technical stats on this, because as you can see here, I'm not running this on very high level, but I had trouble towards, the kind of latter parts of maybe the next video, as you'll see, because certainly you start to kind of have this issue where effectively the frame rate starting to get a little bit below 24 frames a second, and that's not good. That's when the quality starts to drop a bit. So it's probably just me. I need to set things up. This bridge is a bit overpowering, as you can see. It's pretty it's great. It's a lovely segue, but it's a little bit it's quite demanding, let's say. But I think, persevere with it and you'll find. I mean, just run it on low settings. I'm trying not to run it too low, because obviously it looks terrible on the video then. But I think if you're playing it just on your own, then I think just drop the settings and you'll find it smooth as a baby's bum. I think also probably worth to bear in mind that the controls are a little bit awkward. They're not bad, but you have to get used to them. So as you can see, I just shot the station because I pressed the right mouse button. And the right mouse button will always fire a gun, no matter where you are, what you're pointing at, and I get in a lot of trouble later because of it. But again, at the end of the day, that's not a bad thing. You just have to become accustomed to it. And again, I'd probably stress there is no limit to what you can do. So, for example, here, as we come to the end of this first video, I'm actually kind of giving the weapons a go, and I'm giving mining a go, etc. Now, I'm not going to probably do mining, because I think that's something we'll do maybe when I stream this, because I think at the moment, I think I'm more interested in playing the campaign and learning the game, because again, it's not just about buying a ship and then flying it around. Having to get the crew then, if you recruit an engineer, the engineer will then repair your ships for you. You have to deliver all of these crew to your ships as well, and then hand command to them. It's just amazing. And the more, so for example, on my freighter, you'll see in the next video, I actually recruit a defense officer, and this person then is their responsibility is to defend the ship. So they actually will buy weaponry, they'll buy drones. Yes, there are drones in this game, and my god, they're awesome, and you'll see those in the next video. But there we go, we'll end there. I think, you know, this game I think is truly something exceptional. It takes time to get into it, but if you have a spare couple of days, because it'll only take a few days, I think this game could be for you. And if you're not wanting to try Xrebirth, maybe try X3 Terran Conflict. That's a great place to start, and I think you'll find just an amazing game wrapped up in absolute awesome sauce. Hope you enjoyed that. See you next time.